evening, I'm Delicia Fletcher.
And I'm Paul Moore.
With this edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Tuesday, November 25, 2008. Here's what's happening. Paul.
Thanks, Delicia. CARICOM leaders have called on Caribbean countries to implement measures to protect their economies, even as the banking sector has not been adversely affected by the ongoing global financial crisis. CARICOM Chairman Baldwin Spencer and several other heads made this call following a meeting of the CARICOM Heads Bureau where the current financial crisis was high on the agenda. Here's Edward Lane.
Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister and CARICOM's Chairman Baldwin Spencer says the region's economies are small and vulnerable, and multilateral financial institutions should have greater sensitivity towards them in this period of financial turmoil. He made this comment after the CARICOM Bureau of Heads met on Saturday. The Bureau issued a call to CARICOM members to conserve their foreign reserves and, where possible, provide loans for production and export-related activities. Those measures were among recommendations put forward to help ease the financial squeeze on the region. Meanwhile, Bahamas Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham says the region did call for more efforts to be taken to ensure that insurance companies and private pensions to receive enhanced attention by governments in the region, a move the Guyana government has already made, and Friday last, President Bharat Jagdeo assured that these sectors in Guyana are secure.
We have had a good look at our financial sector, our insurance sector. We've looked at the investment of our pension funds. There are some minor issues, but on the whole, I think that we have an overall sound system.
In an effort to put the global economic and financial crisis in context, central bank governors will shortly look at contingency measures that should be implemented to address the situation. They are expected to consult with other agencies like the University of the West Indies and the Caribbean Development Bank. A report by the Committee of Central Bank Governors presented to the Bureau said that Caribbean banks have not been adversely affected in spite of the ongoing global economic crisis. However, Prime Minister Spencer cautioned that CARICOM states are not immune from the effects of the financial crisis. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
Several CARICOM member states say they have outstanding issues with the free movement of skills within the region, including the treatment of the family of skilled certificate holders. These and other concerns were expressed during a heated debate at the meeting of the Council for Trade and Economic Development being held in Georgetown. Details in this report.
CARICOM ministers here for the quoted meeting have contentiously expressed their views as to whether family members should be able to live with persons in possession of a free movement of skills certificate.
Although we give you the right to free movement, maybe as a teacher, if you want to take your wife or child, what kind of rights do they have? Can they have a scholarship that is offered in the country? Can they work in the country? Well, that's a very contentious issue.
According to Dr. Jeffrey, many member states believe it will bring additional burden on their already limited resources.
There have been lots of talk that we don't even have the kind of resources, not Ghana, but that's what people have been saying. We, Suriname or St. Lucia or so on, say, we don't really have the resource to deal with our people in terms of education and health.
But all is not lost, as some practical solutions are being looked at. One of these are possible financial aid from the Caribbean Development Fund. But the general development and budget of the recently formed Competition Commission also garnered attention.
In any free market, you need somebody that's going to referee whether or not people are overstepping their bounds in terms of competition, what they're doing to the marketplace, how they're making the marketplace uncompetitive, whether or not they're dumping and that sort of a thing. So we had to look at that, look at the budget and look at the general development of the CARICOM Competition Commission.
Finalizing the mechanism of the Caribbean Development Fund was also looked at. It is the view of the Council that this vital institution can support poorer member states in the face of the global financial crisis. Other issues that engaged the two-day session is the global financial crisis, the Canada-Caribbean Trade Agreement, and the implementation of the Economic Partnership Agreement. The Council for Trade and Economic Development consists of subject ministers designated by member states. The meeting ended today.
The Ministry of Human Services and Social Security will further collaborate with the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport to ensure children at the New Opportunity Corps after leaving the center will be more skilled. This move came following Minister Priyamanik Chan's visit to Essequibo on Friday to the center to check on the children's well-being and progress. Administrative Manager Jacqueline Munter explained to the minister some of the challenges they face. She says whenever the children leave the institution, they are not received well by their relatives and community. Meanwhile, the minister issued a strong warning to parents who refuse to do what is expected of them. Measures will be put in place to charge parents who fail to take up their responsibility. Region 4 Chairman Clement Curlett says there needs to be more communication among councillors. The chairman says the Regional Executive Officer, Shafdar Ali, needs to communicate more with the members of the administration. But councillors are saying the chairman has not been very receptive to views other than his, allowing for a communication breakdown. Giselle Archibald has the details.
The chairman made this statement after he was accused of reactivating a bank account for the region, which could only be done by the Regional Executive Officer, Mr. Shafdar Ali. But Mr. Curlett is contending that the matter would not have been as big as it is if the REO had spoken with him.
If he heard this letter was sent, he should have come and find out what happened, and I would have explained to him and helped him to understand how he could go to put the machinery playing. Because he never did that. I only heard through the grapevine that he intervened and pushed a span in it. And from then to now, you're talking about from March to now, nothing has happened.
But this isn't what other councillors feel, because PPP Councillor Kwame McCoy says they cannot speak up against the chairman. He believes that this is the reason for the break in communication.
He wants to make sure that at the end of the day, he is dominating every aspect of the RDC. So much as to say, for the first time in the history of Guyana, that councillors must submit their names before speaking, and he will determine the questions to be asked.
There has always been a gruce among the councillors who make up members of the three main political parties. Mr. McCoy had accused the chairman of acting out of his jurisdiction by attempting to re-establish a bank account on behalf of the Women's Regional Committee of Region 4. But Curlett said he only wrote a recommendation on behalf of the committee. For the NCN 6 o'clock news, I am Giselle Archibald.
Policymakers from the Commonwealth Caribbean have pledged to find ways to address the impact of climate change in the region. The pledge was made during a two-day seminar hosted by the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center in Barbados. Issues addressed included the vulnerability of the region and likely implications for economies and societies. The participants were also briefed on ways to incorporate climate change considerations into policies.